Okay.
What
You ready for this one?
What do we have today?
I was gonna tell you the story about when I got kidnapped in an airport.
Wait, what?
I got kidnapped in an airport. I was 16, and hear me out, but I straight up got kidnapped. Um, and this is a hypothetical story because for protection purposes, this may or may not be true. Um, so I was on my way to Norway. Um, I was professionally snowboarding and competing a lot at this time. And actually, Terje Hawkinson, who's a legendary snowboarder, had invited me to the Arctic Challenge to compete in the quarter pipe event. And that was like such an honor and I was so excited about that. So I had to like last second book a ticket and like figure out how I'm gonna get there. And basically, I had a layover for this international flight from in Atlanta, and I headed from LAX to Atlanta, and I was headed to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Oslo, Norway, and it was quite a long travel plan. But in Atlanta, I had a 6.5 hour layover, so I was like, well, I don't want to just hang out in the airport for 6.5 hours. But I had arrived there at like 11 o'clock at night. So it was like there wasn't much going on, but I was like, I don't know, like, should I go and like check out the city? Should I go like see the sights? It's 11 p.m. on a weekday in Atlanta. So there's a train. There's a train that leaves from the airport in Atlanta, and it goes into the city. And so I'm like, whatever, all my bags were checked all the way through. So I was like, I'm cool. Like, I'll jump on this train and go down and check it out. And, if and then I'll come back. So that's exactly what I did. I jumped on this train. It's like a normal, subway style train. And I start heading out to the city. And I'm on the train for like about an hour. And there's no one on the train, not a single person. And I get about an hour in, and I'm like, you know what? I feel like I should abandon this idea because it was like another hour. I don't know how long, maybe 30 minutes, whatever. If you know that area, it was like a solid chunk of time on the train. And then partway to the city, there's like a bunch of different stops in between. And then like, a few stops in, I was like, I should probably abandon this idea because it started to take way longer than I thought it was going to take. So maybe like, yeah, 3, 4, 5 stops in, I get off and I'm like, okay, I don't want to I don't want to miss my next flight. So I get off at this stop and I'm going to catch the next train to go back to the airport and then just, go back to the airport. So I'm staying in this, it was like a train yard style area. Tons of brick walls. The whole entire train station was made of bricks and there was nobody. It was silent. And it was like, almost midnight in Atlanta. It's freezing cold, wintertime. And I just remember being like, I'm scared. I'm 16, but I'm like, I'm terrified right now. There's nobody here. It's like a sketchy area. It feels super sketchy. And I don't like this. But I don't really have any other options but to wait for this next train. This next train was like 30 minutes away. So that's when I started to figure out, I'm like, if I go all the way into the city, I'm not going to have time. I don't want to risk it. Let's go back. So I jumped off, stayed there, waiting for this train for 30 minutes. Finally, like, one person shows up. It was just like a gentleman standing on the other side of the railway, like waiting for the same train. But like I said, I'm in the middle of this train yard and it's sketchy. There's graffiti everywhere. It smells. It's dirty. There's trash on the ground, and it's midnight. And so finally the train arrives, and I'm like, cool, I made it. Like, we're back. I'm out of the sketchy area. As soon as I get on the train, there is a man standing by the door, and then another guy standing up, like there's like a second layer of train, basically, like maybe like 3 or 4 feet up. There's more seating, and so there's another guy standing over there. So as soon as I get on the train, I just get like really really weird vibes, like from both of the guys. I felt really uncomfortable, like I was about to be mugged or something. Like both dudes looked really really gnarly, and they were looking at each other. And so I'm like, okay, I don't like this situation. at all, even more than I did when I was standing at the train station. I sat down across the way from the gentleman that was standing by the door. And then, like I said, there's this other guy up in the corner of the train, and he has this huge puffy jacket on, like this massive white puffy jacket. And he literally looked like a marshmallow. It was just like his head popping out of the top of it, and everything else was just kind of like submerged, like just all over the seat. Huge puffy jacket. So I'm sitting there, I like low key like strap my backpack, I like clip the buckle. I'm totally about to get mugged. Like that was the situation. I felt like, you know, these guys are looking at me and vibing me, and I'm just not supposed to be here right now. But the guy, especially, that was sitting across from me, so there's just two of them and me in the whole entire train. The other guy got on another train car. So it's just us three. It's weird. The vibes are happening hardcore. And I'm like, okay, these guys are about to do something. And the guy across from me just won't stop looking at me. I'm like looking this way, like trying not to make eye contact, this and that. This guy's like looking at me and like snarling and like just being like really weird. And like, you know, but he would not stop looking at me. And I'm like, okay, well, something's about to go down. I'm not stupid in this way. Like these guys want beef with this, you know, 16-year-old kid. So I finally, like I grabbed, there's like the arm rail right here by the door of the train. And I wrapped my arm around it like this casually. Like I'm going to just try to hold on to this thing. These guys are it was that gnarly. Like I was like, these dudes are about to do something in there. It's almost like it was pre-planned. So I'm counting the moments. Like we stop at a train station, doors open, nothing happens, doors close, we keep going. This guy's still just looking at me, and I'm just like not making eye contact. And then we finally get to the airport. We get to the airport. It's like airport stop approaching, you know? And I'm like, okay, perfect. Like we're here. We're on people again. So the one guy that's sitting across from me just bolts it, like just gets off the train and bails. This guy that had the big puffy on that's up in the corner, he walks like he's getting off the train, and then he comes up right to me and goes, so where are you going? Huh? Like, where are you going? Just like a hood dude, like super, super like, you know, G'd out. He's like, so where are you going? And I'm like, what? I'm going to the airport. And he's like, no. Like, and he was like on top of me. He just starts trying to make small talk. Like I said, I'm like an innocent 16-year-old kid. And so I'm like, okay, maybe this guy doesn't hate me. You know, I start getting lured in a way that, of course, I would never get lured in to that today. So I see this much differently today. But I'm like, oh, I'm going to Amsterdam. And he's like, oh yeah, Amsterdam, I dream of going there. Like, I want to take my girlfriend there if I could ever figure out a way to get there. And then he's like, so where are you going to go? And now we're walking down from like that airport train station. I'm getting on, I'm like, get me into like society, you know? We start going down this escalator, and the escalator goes down into the airport. And as soon as, if you know where I'm talking about in the Atlanta airport, I went down this escalator, and then there's like a food court, and there's like a Domino's and a bunch of different things. And then I start walking, I'm like, I'm just gonna go sit at this Domino's and like pretend like I'm getting pizza. So this guy walks up with me to the Domino's. He wouldn't leave me alone. And I'm like, hi, can I, just ignoring him, kind of pretend like this guy's not even here anymore, you know? And I'm like, can I please get a Domino's, or obviously Domino's, can I please get a small cheese pizza? And he goes, with 2 boxes. He's standing right next to me at the corner, at the counter. And he goes, with 2 boxes. And then I look at him, and the lady looks at me and looks at him, and I'm like, I just didn't say anything. And then I'm like, that's it, just a small cheese pizza, please. And then he goes, with 2 boxes. Again, this guy is intense, you know? Brings 2 boxes, and then I'm not kidding you. He goes, you can can you split it in half, put half of that pizza in this box? And I'm like already so overwhelmed, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm afraid of this guy. It's midnight at the freaking airport, and there's no like, you know, cops around or anyone around. So I'm not gonna just be like, you know, yell at this dude, and I'm 16, you know? So next thing you know, I get my half of my pizza that I bought, and I sit down, and the guy sits down with me. Like, what are you supposed to do in a situation like that? Like, the guy just big old puffy jacket, big white coat, overtaking the whole entire, you know, chair and everything. And then he opens his box, and we start eating pizza together. I'm not gonna you know, what am I gonna do? Run away from this dude? He's just following me everywhere. So we're sitting there eating pizza, and he starts talking to me and you know, just saying like stuff. And then I'm like, hey man, you have a good one. Like, I'm gonna go catch my flight because it's about to leave. I gotta go through security. And he goes, ha, security. Like I cannot make this up. And I'm like, yeah, like, see you, man. And then he goes, you're fine. You're not going to be late to anything. And I'm like, what? Like, see ya. Like, and I start walking. And then he gets up with his pizza box, starts walking with me. He goes, security's closed. And like, he's like behind me. He's like shadowing me, kind of like like behind me to the right. And then I'm like, what? And I start walking. I had to go to E gates, like the E gates. And I'm like, okay, I'm still pretty far away from that. So like, I think I had to get on some, whatever. I knew I had to go a distance to get there. And then he's like, he keeps saying, security's closed, like just under his breath. But like, and then I'm walking through like the check-in station. And then it's just like, all gates this way, security. And then literally the security is like, there's like a gate. Like there's like those, if you look at a lot of airports like that, they have like these pull down gates where there's actually, sometimes the terminals are closed, like the security is actually just closed. And so he was right. Like the security to this place was closed. So it turns out, for whatever reason, it must have been the hour of the night. Everyone that needed to get to the E gates had to proceed to another security gate on the other side of the airport to get, and like maybe take a bus or a train or whatever to get to the E gates. So I'm like, this time I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually now at this point, like if I have to go that way and do all that, like I'll probably miss my flight. Like, so this dude just screwed me up. This dude just messed my whole entire trip up. Now I'm going to miss my plane and whatever. And he goes, like I said, security's closed. And then he goes, walk with me. I just remember him saying, walk with me. And he's like eating his pizza, big old puffy jacket. And I'm just like, what? I'm not walking with you. Like, this guy's insane. But like I said, vulnerable 16-year-old me is like, okay, like, I don't, maybe I don't want to say no, like it's weird because now I would just slap that guy in the face. But 16 years old, you're thinking a little bit differently. You're not aware as much. And so I just remember him like eating his pizza and being like, walk with me. And I'm like, okay, well now I'm in my mind. I remember thinking like, well, if I, like, wait, what? Like how, just trying to process everything. He goes, I work here. I have every badge you need. Like, I'll get you through security. And then I'm like, we'll take a shortcut. What? No, like absolutely not. Then I knew, I was like, no, like not a chance. This is not happening. I turned around. I start walking away from the guy. I'm walking the opposite direction. Like, I don't care what it takes. I'm getting away from this dude. Forget this. So I walk up to this counter. I walk up to, there was like just some airline check-in counter. And I'm like, excuse me, I need to get to this gate. How do I get there? And I'm just like ignoring this guy by this point. Like I said, give me a break. I was 16. Then he walks up to the counter with me. And he's like, they're like, oh yeah, you have to walk around all the way this way and go in, this way. And basically it's going to take you a while to get there. And then he looks at me after they said that and he goes, see, told you. And I'm like, this guy won't leave me. So then he goes, I have every badge you need. I'll get you through. Let's go. And I'm like, what? So I'm like, prove it. You have badges? Show me the badges. From his big puffy jacket, he unzips it and pulls out like a chain, like a lanyard with like 10 badges on it. And all of a sudden I look and he has like all these credentials, credential for this, credential for that. And it's all his face on these things and on these IDs. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what? So confused, right? So now, of course, more time has gone by and I'm like, now I'm 100% going to miss my flight. So now I have to, like, for whatever reason at the time, I'm like, I'm going to just listen to this guy and see what happens. Like, I'm just going to see, okay, fine. He's like, walk with me. He says it again, walk with me. So I'm like, all right, fine, dude. This guy, whatever. Okay, so I start walking with this guy. Like I said, I would not do this today. I start walking with him. He goes, stay on my heels. He's like, stay close, stay close. And then I'm like, what? He's like, I said stay close, like just stay close. And I'm like walking like right behind this guy as he's just munching down this pizza still, throws the box, he's like finishes it, throws the box in a trash can to the left, and then we take a left around this corner and we're walking down this hallway like behind the check-in counters. I'm just like, what is happening, dude? Like, why do you get yourself into these situations? Like, what are you doing, And so we make this left-hand turn, we're walking down this big hallway, and then we make like a right-hand turn, and there's this door, and he punches in a code, swipes his badge, swipes one of those badges, opens the door, and then we're on this like long white hallway of just like nothing. Like as far as you could see, it was just a white hallway. But there was cameras like every 5 feet, everywhere. There's camera here, camera here, camera here, camera there. And every which direction there's cameras. And I'm just like, okay. But we're going through this door. And then we get to the end of the hallway. And there's like one of those things where, you know, at like stadiums and stuff, they let one person through and then it stops, you know, and then you have to scan your ticket and then it like lets one person through and it stops so that you can't like, multiple people can't get in at once, and you make sure that it's like, I think at like, you know, water parks and stuff, they have those things. There was one of those. So he did his badge thing, grabs me. I'm not kidding you, grabs me by the shirt like this, pulls me into his face like this. So we're face to face, this close. And we go through this like carousel thing together. So you know, those things like they only let one person through. We're in it like this, and we go through like this. And keep in mind, there's 10 cameras within 10 feet of us. Like so I'm like, we're obviously gonna get in trouble. Why is this guy even doing this? And why did I listen to this dude? And how am I in this situation? So we get through the carousel thing, and then we walk a few more feet. And then he starts going, so what'd you think of the baseball game yesterday? I'm like, what is he talking? He's like, I thought that they should, you know, whatever. He's like, I thought that they should have won, but then they had it, and then, you know, the points didn't lead up right. I'm like, this guy's insane. What is he talking about? He's talking about a baseball game now. So then we walk up to another door. He does a number like pattern thing, swipes his badge, opens the door, and we're like next to each other at this point. I look up and I just see like E5. That was my gate. I'm at the gate. Exactly, and it's like they're boarding. I'm right there. So then I'm like, I'm guaranteed 100%, like there's no question about it. I'm on those cameras. People saw me do that. What is what? And so I remember going into like a bathroom right there. And then, oh, by the way, for the baseball story, I'm like, why is this guy telling the baseball story? So he starts like trying to do this as like small talk. And then I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like I thought that the other team should have won, but like they probably shouldn't have won. And I don't know. And then I remember he slaps me on the butt and he goes, good cover up, and just walks away. I'm like, and that was it. I didn't see him again. And then I went into the bathroom, changed my clothes. I'm like, I'm for sure like gonna get in so much trouble for not even knowing why I'm in this situation. And I just went through an international airport without going through security. And now I'm about to board a flight that's going to another country. So then I start panicking myself. Go into the bathroom, change my clothes. I look through my entire bag to make sure that I wasn't planted with a bomb or something. Like I literally was like, I don't know, like how my whole world just got rocked. I don't even know what's happening. So I went through every item. I took my shoes off even that didn't leave my feet the whole time. Go through my bag, look through every zipper, everything. What, like, am I being like, you know, used right now? And so there was nothing in my bag, nothing. So I changed my clothes. I walked back to the gate and there was 10 cops sitting there. Just sitting there looking around. You know, there's some TSA guys there and they're all just standing right at the door we walked through. So I just sit down and I'm like, you know, I know I have my best interest in myself and the other people in you know, there. Okay, I checked myself. There's nothing on me. We're good. So I'm sitting there at the gate and these people, everyone there, I was like already paranoid and scared. Everyone there was looking at me. They're just looking at me. Not saying anything, but I'm like, why is everyone looking at me? I don't know, but I'm not, like, you know when you're paranoid and you think people are looking at you? No, every single person is looking at me. I'm like, Jesus. So then they call, you know, like I get on the plane and the lady like lunges for my boarding pass. I'm like, oh gosh, what happened? She's like, your seat's right over here, sir. So then I sit down and then everyone still is looking at me. I'm like, what is like, did everyone like watch what just happened? How is this? And then I checked my bag again when I got on the plane. I'm like, I still don't even know what's happening. Run through my bag again, like, you know, self-checking it. And then I go on a super long flight from Atlanta to Amsterdam. When I get to Amsterdam, I have the layover there. As soon as we get off the plane, I'm not kidding you, a bomb threat happens. So I'm walking through like where the terminal thing is, or like the the gateway to the plane. We're getting off the plane, walking into like the main terminal, and we get off, and they're like warning everyone. It's like literally 2 minutes earlier from us getting off the plane, a guy had screamed, "I have a bomb," and ran into the bathroom and locked himself in one of the things. So they had a whole entire airport shut down. Every flight was delayed, but every single person in the airport, I don't know why they did this, was forced into this like main room. And so there's thousands of people, literally thousands of people in this one little area, and there's like just, armed guards everywhere searching, or like, police, military, whatever. And then I remember, this is so lucky of me, I remember them, like, I was looking at the board, and they were like, every single flight behind, like, let's say 2 p.m. or whatever it was, is canceled. My flight was at like 1:50. I remember, like, they were only letting a certain amount of people through to the gate, to the terminals from this general area. And now I'm like, perfect. This dude who says he has a bomb just funneled everyone to this area, and now the bomb's gonna go off, kill everybody. There's so many people everywhere. So I snuck through. There was like this little gap that like the main person, I'm a 16-year-old skinny little kid. The average person wouldn't have been able to fit through this gap. But like behind this like post, like this support post on the side of the airport, there was like this little gap like at 1 foot wide. And there was like this entire security like thing this way. But I remember seeing like, there's my gate right there. But they were letting like one person through. There's thousands of people. And so I got just through this thing just in time, just got on the plane, got to Norway that night. And then I got to Norway, and the celebration party was happening as soon as I got there. And I was like raging it up with the Dropkick Murphys and like having the best time ever. And like saw all my friends were there. I was like raging it up with all those guys. And I wasn't drinking, of course, at 16. And I was like, you don't understand. Everyone's like, where have you been? I was late and like whatever, but it was just like I'm like, you don't even know what I just experienced. And anyway, the rest of the trip went smooth, had a great time. Got messed up on the quarter pipe, also had a bunch of fun, but I don't suggest you meeting anybody on a train and following them through an airport, or meeting anybody and following them that you don't trust. That's why I say, stay away from strangers. But it's just all about the story and telling it. And I hope somebody enjoyed this out there. So thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.